Hello, my name is Jeremy Barnes, and today I'm going to be doing a review for the first two episodes of the Loki show on Disney Plus. And I was originally going to do reaction videos each week to each episode as it comes out, but I tried to do one for the first episode last week, and YouTube's copyright restrictions just didn't let me, and I tried over and over again to cut out more and more of the stuff so it wouldn't be a problem, but no matter what I did and how many times I tried, it still wouldn't work. So I was not allowed to post a video anymore. So instead, I think I'm just gonna do weekly reviews. And just so you know, this will be fully spoiler review. So I'll talk a little bit about the first episode, but I'll also mostly talk about episode two. So briefly for the first episode, I would say that it was the strongest Disney Plus Marvel series premiere of the three shows so far: WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and now Loki. Because I would say before the other two shows didn't have good starts in my opinion. Like both shows were really good, but the first episode didn't really do it for me for either of those two shows. But Loki did do a really good job with the premiere in my opinion. And some of my favorite parts of episode one were the little TVA informational video, narrated, of course, by Miss Minutes. And that was a really cool, insightful video, assuming it is true what they're saying there, because it could just be TVA propaganda. But either way, it was cool, like how much they talked about the multiverse right off the bat in the first episode, which I wasn't expecting. And it was cool learning a little bit and seeing, at least in animated form, the timekeepers. And I do hope they are real and we do see them in the flesh in this show. And Miss Minutes is great. She's hilarious. And just being introduced to the TVA was a really cool experience. I definitely had a blast doing that, and it was cool seeing Loki's introduction to it and his reaction, like how they had the little Infinity Stones moment where there was just a bunch of duplicate Infinity Stones in a drawer, and none of them work. The Tesseract doesn't work in TVA, and Loki has uh, like this insightful moment where he's like, "Is this truly the greatest power in the universe? Because if in this place the Infinity Stones, which you previously thought were the most important thing, don't work, then this has to be the most powerful place in the universe." So that was kind of crazy. And then I also liked the moment of when Loki was looking at his life afterward, after he had the conversation with Mobius there in the theater. But when he went by himself and he was able to like let go of holding his emotions back, which he was doing when he was with Mobius, and you see him finally like let all that emotion out when he saw his mom die, and Mobius said that it was his fault that she died, which that was like pretty hard, and I never even thought about it like that. But in a way, Mobius is right. Um, and then we see the scene from Ragnarok when Odin references Loki as his son, and he says that he loves him. He says that he loves both of his sons, but obviously that includes Loki. So that scene didn't really hit in Ragnarok for me, like that. But seeing Loki, this Loki's reaction to it, like it actually really hit me. And then even with Thor also in Ragnarok, when they're on the elevator and Thor tells him like, I thought the world of you. I thought we were gonna fight side by side forever." And in that moment, I actually thought Thor was kind of bogus because he says, "But at the end of the day, you're you and I'm me," saying that Loki will always be the bad guy and Thor is the good guy, so they're never gonna truly get along. And I felt bad for Loki in Ragnarok when Thor said that, but it was more of a like, damn, Thor, you didn't have to be so mean. But I guess it was like kind of like tough love from Thor. But in this moment, Loki, he wasn't like hurt by that. He was more like proud of like how close they had become, because then we see obviously later in Ragnarok that they do team up, and the scene at the end when Thor tells Loki like, if you were here, I might even give you a hug, and Loki was there. So that was a great moment in Ragnarok, and seeing Loki like smile about that, that was really great. Um, and then him seeing his death, his like horrified reaction to that, that was like real, because that was an intense scene in the beginning of Infinity War when Thanos snaps his neck, and it's just that bone crunching sound that like really gets you. So that was another great moment in the first episode. Other than that, I would say the scene at the end that they had the cliffhanger with the variant Loki that has been killing all the TVA Minutemen. That was a pretty cool scene. It wasn't that like crazy to me, mostly because I had seen it in the trailer, and there was nothing like added to it that wasn't in the trailer. So it wasn't as big of a moment to me as it might have been for other people, but it was still a great moment either way. But also, I just really love Loki and Mobius's dynamic. Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson are definitely doing a great job together, and obviously that applies to episode one and it also goes into episode two. So now I'm going to talk about episode two, and I would say I actually prefer episode one over this one, but this show is still good. I still enjoyed it a lot. I would say overall, the reason why I didn't like it so much was because it wasn't as engaging to me for most of it. Like it wasn't until the end of the episode where it was like really good in my opinion. But the rest of it was just okay. And I was surprised at how fast like after episode one, Loki's just like working for the TVA. Like he's in his office clothes, sitting at Mobius's office in the beginning, and he's just chilling there. Like at first, I thought he was actually office that they gave him, but it was Mobius's office. But still, um, and then he goes on the first mission with him, and I thought it was funny how the Renaissance thing was not the actual like Renaissance, which I thought it might have been, and it was just a Renaissance fair in the 80s. That was hilarious. But all the scenes with Lady Loki, which we don't find out is Lady Loki until the end of this episode, are good. And her first scene that starts off the episode, that one was really good. And she definitely has more of like a horror vibe to her than other Lokis that we've seen before. Like she wants to be like kind of creepy or like in the shadows and like stalk from the shadows. And I thought that was really cool in the beginning, and then it also happens at the end where everything's all dark and creepy looking. And the other apocalyptic event in this episode was also pretty cool, going to Pompeii. It was just like a fun little moment. It didn't really have major like significance, but it was just kind of cool seeing that. And I liked how Loki let out the goats, and he's like, "Be free, my horn friends," because you know Loki loves his horns with the little crown that he wears. Um, it's interesting that he wasn't really wearing that in this one, but we will see him wear a version of it later. We know because of President Loki from the trailers, but I'm surprised that he hasn't been wearing one in this form, because I don't even know that President Loki will be him, like our TVA Loki that is the main character of the show, or if it's just another alternate version of it. But we'll see, I guess, because it could go either way at this point. I don't know, but I'm definitely excited to see more of that. I've seen online that people have pointed out that Lady Loki is probably a character called Sylvie Bushton, which is a version of the character Enchantress from Marvel Comics. And from what I know, from what other people have been saying, is that she's actually a character that is created by Loki. And I'm not sure if it's like the main Loki or if it might have even been Lady Loki that created this enchantress in the comics. But I kind of feel like in the show they're kind of combining that version of enchantress with Lady Loki. Like I don't think it's one or the other. Like it's definitely Lady Loki, but some people are online are saying like it's not Lady Loki, it's Enchantress. But it is Lady Loki, but it also might be Enchantress. Like I think they might be combining the two characters. And I just seen somebody else post like a specific thing in the show that does say Sylvie, uh, and 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 that is referencing Lady Loki. Um, it's a file that when Loki is first looking through the files when Mobius assigns him, it's like a blink and you'll miss it moment. Which if you pause it right away, because Loki he flips that paper right away, you could see the name Sylvie Laufey daughter. So that shows us that the character is Lady Loki because she has Laufey daughter as her last name. But in the episode, she says, "Don't call me Loki," when our Loki, the main TVA Loki, calls her that. And what I thought when I saw that originally was not that it's not Loki. I just thought that it was a version of Loki where they don't want to be called Loki anymore. And they're trying to form like a new identity for themselves. And it makes sense because she's not acting like how Loki would normally act. Like I said, the whole thing of hiding in the shadows and stalking her prey that way, and the type of magic that she uses, we've never seen Loki use, but I think we will see later in the show because there are shots also in the trailer where we do see Loki use a similar type of magic where it has this green glow to it. But I definitely think that the character that we see unhood herself at the end is definitely still Lady Loki. Like that is a version of Loki, but combined with this other character, which some people have been saying, which I'm kind of getting behind this theory, that there's probably another version of Loki who might be King Loki, and he might have been the one that made this version of Loki, which I don't know if that's how it's gonna go. Like if he made this person, like it's not actually a Loki that is Laufey's daughter, but instead somebody who was created by a different version of Loki because that's how Sylvie Lushton Enchantress was created in the comics. I'm not sure if that's going to be how it is, but either way, I still think that there might be another Loki that is King Loki that this version, Lady Loki, is doing the bidding of, but I guess we'll have to see. And some other people also think that, like, I don't think this is true anymore because of the details that I've now seen, but some people thought that this was not Lady Loki and maybe it was just Enchantress posing as Loki, but that we would see the actual Lady Loki because in the comics, Lady Loki comes after the events of Ragnarok, which obviously we've seen it in the MCU. Um, Loki dies, but his soul is going to inhabit a new body, and the body that he inhabits, instead of like his own or a male form, he actually possesses Sif's body. So it's actually Loki's soul in Sif's body that creates Lady Loki. So some people think that Jamie Alexander, who played Sif in the first two Thor movies, is gonna be in the show, and she'll appear as Lady Loki, which I think would be cool, and it could still be a possibility, but I'm kind of like less confident in that theory. But it would still be cool if Sif herself, as Sif, does appear because I think she is coming back for Thor 4, Love and Thunder. So it would be cool to see her here because she actually is a character from the Thor movies that has already appeared in television. She made a cameo in I think the first season of Agents of Shield. So it would make sense that she would reappear again first in TV before she goes back to the movies with Love and Thunder. But we'll see. But the ending thing was crazy. Like when they, it was cool to see that first of all that we see the MCU in the future. Like this is our first glimpse at the future MCU in 2050 with an apocalyptic event in Alabama with a huge hurricane. And we see a futuristic version of Roxxon, which is now called Roxcart, or at least it's a sub business of Roxxon Corporation. Um, and then like Loki, we see at least this part of her plan, which is like huge consequences for what she does here, which she's been collecting all of the TVA time reset bombs to bomb the sacred timeline at different points throughout the history. And that's crazy because that's what's going to create a whole bunch of branches all at the same time, and it's going to be too much for the TVA to have to deal with. So Lady Loki is probably the cause of the multiverse of madness. Because I don't know, like maybe the TVA will be able to clip some of these branches, but I doubt they'll be able to clip all of them. So this will probably lead into why the multiverse gets destroyed. So that's kind of crazy because everybody, I mean most people, I was expecting that Wanda would be the one to break open the multiverse. That didn't really happen in WandaVision. She still might be another factor, um, but it seems like Lady Loki is actually the one that does it, and I wasn't really expecting that. I was expecting that Loki would be part of the multiverse saga because of all the whole timeline situation, but I thought the multiverse would be broken first in WandaVision, and Loki would be kind of a different type of thing, which I'm still not completely sure on how the multiverse works because the way they're explaining it here, it seems like maybe there's not a multiverse, like it's just one timeline because anytime there's like a different timeline where it branches out, they snip it, so it doesn't exist no more. It's just one timeline. But it could be that the way that they're talking about it here, the TVA only focuses on one timeline. Like they're only worried about time variations in the multiverse, but there are different universes. Like there are different versions of all of this, but that's its own like thing, and the timeline is a separate thing. Like this is all about time, but the multiverse is about more like space, I guess you could say. Uh, I'm not sure. Like we have yet to see, and I guess we will hopefully see that soon. But that's kind of what I think it'll be like. Like I think there are different universes, but each one has probably, like what they say here, a sacred timeline. So each multiverse is supposed to have one timeline that is like the main timeline. And then anything else, like if it branches off within that universe, they don't want that. So that's what they cut out. But yeah, so that's crazy. Like I don't know, anything could happen now. Like I feel like we might go to each of these places, or at least some of them throughout the show, where this lady Loki set off these charges. And people also pointed out on Twitter that there's a lot of like major places that we know of from the Marvel universe that they hit. So Asgard is one of them, and we already know Asgard will show up because it appeared in the trailer. And I didn't know then, obviously, what the circumstances would be on why we would go to Asgard, but it definitely looked like a destroyed Asgard. So I figured it would be an Asgard from the future where it was just like a different destruction, I guess, because Asgard and Ragnarok just completely got obliterated, so there's nothing left. But in this version, it looks like things are like broken, but it's still intact. Like there's still an Asgard there, but it looks like there's not really any people. But there was also Abaman Sakar, which is the city where they had the contest of champions in Ragnarok. And then Vormir was hit, where the Soul Stone is. Ego's planet was hit, which is crazy. Titan was hit, the planet where Thanos is from, and then also Hala, which is where the Kree are from, the Kree's homeworld, which that first appeared in Captain Marvel, and also Xandar, where the Nova Corps are. So that's pretty crazy. And then this one is pretty interesting because New York was hit in the year 1947. So we could possibly be seeing Steve Rogers in that time if we go there. And I don't know if these specific places and times were hit for a specific reason by Lady Loki, but it could be that we will see Steve and Peggy after he returned to her at the end of Avengers Endgame. So that'll be kind of interesting to see. But either way, we will see a version of New York. I don't know if we'll go to that version at 1947, but there also will be a different version from the trailer where there's also a destroyed New York with the Avengers Tower there. So there will be a different time where there is a scene in New York. So I'm very excited to see what happens next because I have no idea what it's going to be. So I'm excited to get into it and find out more about what Lady Loki's doing and whoever else she might be working with. But now that I think about it, I do want to mention also a cool thing in episode 1 was the whole demon, like devil scene when Mobius was first introduced. How they had the devil on the stained glass window, and the little boy said that's who killed the Minutemen in that scene, which was like a long time ago in France. And the first thing I thought of, because that scene actually appeared in the trailer, was Mephisto. And Mephisto was like the big theory that a lot of people, including myself, had in WandaVision, that Mephisto was behind everything, like maybe Agatha was working for him. But people pointed it out, including the director of Loki, that it's actually not supposed to be Mephisto, it's supposed to be a reference to Loki himself because, Loki has the horns, like I said, on his helmet, so that's what the devil horns are for. And it's interesting because in episode 2, we see Lady Loki in the red light at the end, like they have like the warning lights. I don't know if it's from what she did or if it was just from the hurricane. That's the apocalypse event that was happening in 2050. But obviously, red is associated with the devil and hell. So she might just be the only devil thing there. But it'll be interesting if maybe Lady Loki or just a version of Loki in general is Mephisto because I was assuming Mephisto would be the reason why the multiverse is opened, or that he's the one that wants it open for a certain reason. And obviously, this Lady Loki wants it open for a certain reason, but maybe they might be like kind of combining them, or it was just a one reference in that episode. But I don't know. We'll see. Either way, things are kind of interesting, and I kind of hope that Lady Loki isn't Mephisto, and I hope Mephisto does still show up in some capacity later. But I guess it doesn't really matter that much. It just would be cool. But we'll see. Oh yeah, and I also think that Kang the Conqueror is one of the timekeepers, the one that is always in the middle of the three statues or whatever. They're always in the same order, I think. Um, and one reason is because I think it looks like Kang, and it didn't quite look the same way in the comics. It is pretty close to the comic book look, but I think the one in the comics might have been a female, and Kang is male. Um, but Kang the Conqueror was a love interest to Ravonna Renslayer, who in the show is the TVA judge who judges Loki, and she's the one that has the relationship with Mobius, where in episode 2 he goes to her office. And the show makes a point of pointing out that middle timekeeper. So he's got to be more important than the other ones, and it's because he's this other character, Kang the Conqueror. And the two examples of that is in the credits of episode one. Well, actually, I guess in both credits, I think his face is zoomed in on in the courtroom, and then in episode two, when we first see Judge Renslayer's office, we start up on a zoom on him, and then it zooms out to see the other three and then the full room. So I definitely think he's important, whether he is king or not. Like, I feel like that timekeeper will be pretty important for the show, and I do think the timekeepers are real. I don't think that they're fake, but I guess we'll see. It seems like Judge Renslayer does have a relationship with them, like she does know them. Mobius says he never met them, but it seems like she does because she said that they're more involved than they normally would be. For this case, for the Loki case. So I suspect we will see them pretty soon. So I think that's all I'm gonna say right now. But I'm excited for the next episode, so stay tuned for my review for that. And thank you for watching. Goodbye and peace.